It's been too long since I've done a video update on the new features in Tassient Aipex. Here are some of what's arrived in the last few weeks. There's a new dashboard. We've got scripting and triggers now. We've got management of device groups, Linux remote control, NPU monitoring, some AI updates, and PC over IP monitoring. So let's dive in and let me give you a high-level overview of each of these. Here is a dashboard. This will continue to evolve and improve, but it already gives you an overview of all devices connected to this organization. And it plots them on a map here. You can see them clustered so that you can zoom in and see where they all are. This is the table view of all devices on this organization. I'm going to dive into one of them to show you the new scripting capabilities. So you can trigger them from that tab. I'll come back to that in a second, or you can run them on demand. So I'm going to pick a Windows script for this Windows device, and I'm going to run it to show you what happens. I can run it either as system, or I can run it as the logged in user. I'm going to stick with system. And I run it, and I get immediate feedback into the web console from the output of that script. So you can see I've got a live connection to the device, and that ran to completion. I can also choose to trigger scripts, in this case on a per device basis, on various triggers. So startup is when the device boots. I can run it on an interval. I can run it on a schedule. You can see here I can pick a date and a time and a repeat interval if I want to repeat it. And I can run it as system or as a user. There are also triggers for the user logon, for a remote desktop connection to the device, or when a particular process starts. So if I open up that trigger, you can see that I can pick different processes. In this case, I've got WinWord here. But again, I can run any script based on an event. Now let's look at how you would apply that to multiple devices. This is the device group area of the navigation, which is new. If I go into the JR family group, again, there's an automation tab, and now I can apply triggers that will apply to all devices in this group. So if I've got a script I want to run when any of these devices boots for the first time, then great, I can put a script there. I can run it on an interval or a schedule or whenever a process starts. These apply to everything. Let's look at the script editor next. This is a very simple Windows script. It runs as a command script, basically a command prompt. You can also add a custom interpreter there. So you can type in any executable path there that will run your script. Let's look at a more complex script. This is a Linux shell script for updating the Aipex agent. And you can see it's a lot richer. And we're going to run it to show you how that works. This is a Ubuntu desktop. It threw an error because it ran so fast it actually never gave us the full feedback. But you can see it's immediately updated the agent to the latest version, which gives me an excuse to show another new feature. Now we're on the latest version, I can show you remote control. And I'm now going to remote control this Ubuntu desktop. And you can see I'm now connected to the GNOME environment. And of course, the end user can disconnect the administrator anytime they like by clicking the disconnect button, and they're gone. Okay, next we're going to look at some discovery and monitoring features for AI models running on the endpoint device. So this device has both the Intel AI Boost on it and 2 GPUs. It's an absolute beast of a laptop. There's a link to the review in the description. So the new NPU chart is now showing some spikes because we're running an AI benchmark on this device. If we switch to run that benchmark on the NVIDIA GPU instead, you can see the NPU chart goes to 0 and the blue line on the GPU chart is now starting to spike. So you have real-time monitoring and discovery of models running on remote devices. Finally, I'm going to demonstrate these last two features together. Now, this is a Linux VM serving a virtual desktop. We'll come back to that in a second. First, I want to look at the Agentic AI Assistant on the right. The first new feature is that you can now select the language model that's used and powers the back end here. Second, if I refresh the page, you'll notice that conversation now persists. The conversation actually started yesterday and was pulling data from the device to do some historical analysis. I'm going to extend the conversation today by asking it to update and compare yesterday's results with today. Again, Agentic AI, it's connecting to the device, it's pulling a summary live into the model, and it's now doing a comparison because it's got a history and a context window. So you can see it's done that. And it's given us a nice description. And this is obviously very powerful. Another new feature we've added to the model is the ability to customize the prompt. So on an organization level, you can now extend the text that's sent to the language model in the back end. So in this case, we're telling it to assume all devices are BYOD, and it will adjust its recommendations accordingly. Now back to our virtual desktop server. This is a Windows device doing the same thing, serving a virtual desktop, and it's doing it using PCoIP, which is a remote display protocol, formerly Teradici and HP. This is back to that Linux VM doing the same thing, serving a virtual desktop, and you can see the same stats. And as before, not only does the Agentic Assistant have access to them, but also the human has access to historical data as well.